Welcome back. This is the second half of our newspaper review. We're looking at the big stories, of course, right across our dailies. We love it when you chime in with your feedback. You can get me at I am Jeff Motor at K24 TV. The WhatsApp number at the bottom of the screen as well, even as we ask our question of the day. What is the solution to this divisive elections that we see every single time? What's the best way to achieve non-divisive elections as we move forward? It's 2 years off, but you can never be too early to start. What's the best way to achieve non-divisive elections? That's what we want to know. We'd love to hear from you. The WhatsApp number, once again, at the bottom of the screen. Also joined in this second half by Dr. Boni Halwale. Good morning, Dr. Karibu sana.
I'm sorry for coming late.
I was wondering whether you're going to make it.
No,
I was slightly worried.
I had to. I promised you.
Yes, you did.
Yeah.
Asante sana. Thanks for making time. Right now, talking about where we stand as far as just reducing the political stakes and hoping that the political temperatures will be cooled by the BBI that is being brought forth. Something that was said before the break was that we need an infrastructure that will make sure when one loses, they can accept that outcome, they have faith in that particular outcome, and are willing to work with the winner, as we've seen in every other democracy out there. From where you stand at this particular point in time, do you think we should be looking at adding the Prime Minister and DPM position, or should all eyes be focused on electoral laws and the IEBC so that everybody has faith in the empire of the game?
What cannot be written in any constitution is the spirit. It takes a big spirit, a spirit of a statesman, to accept an election loss and move on. And that's why you see in the US, for example, hardly do you see somebody who has once run attempting to run a second time. I think in the recent past it has only been Sanders, Sanders who had run in the last elections to come back. But when they lose, they disappear. But this obsession with the fact that it is a question of life and death, that one day I should become the president of Kenya, so that you keep on trying and trying and trying, is part of the problem. So we should refuse. Our constitution remains what it is. Whoever wants to run for president should run knowing the consequences. The consequences are that the public will not allow you to call them out. I mean, it will call you out when you ask people to come out on mass action. People must insist that only statesmen are the ones who run for president. Okay,
so it's the politicians.
Yes, and if you are at Bomas, or if you watched Bomas, I saw two statesmen by way of speech. It was William Ruto who gave a statesman's speech, and Musalia Mudavadi. They were saying, okay, we must have good laws for the country, but let the following issues be addressed. How can you stand up like in the good old days of Kariuki Jotara, when everything the president said was tidings from heaven? You can't.
Gabi, I'll have you in on this one as well. Some people have spoken about the fact that, okay, we're looking at this, and if you're going to have this arrangement where, as the president, second runner-up gets official lead of opposition, then should we cascade that down also to counties, so that whoever who comes second, as far as the governorship is concerned, is official leader of opposition at the assembly? Is that what we're doing moving forward? Is that a model to follow?
You see, Jeff, the counties have never been that problematic. I think what really brings the fear and what really puts us on a negative light throughout is that top seat, is the presidential seat. And I can see actually your point, getting a lot of validity when you say, is that what we expect moving forward? My question is, as we discuss about this, now it is a paper. We are supposed to pass it and it becomes implemented. And I keep insisting, and I'll insist again here, the process of implementation is going to be as important as the document itself. And I'm glad Daktari has talked about the spirit, because that is not something that we can, we can define in that particular document. It has to come within the people receiving and those that are bringing it in. What is the spirit behind it? All right? It is the same thing when you have a governor and a deputy governor. During the election, they are running together. They are holding hands. They are doing everything together. But once they get into office, cracks emerge. So how do you deal with that spirit? Do you reach out? Do you bring them in? So the implementation of it, and that's why I'm saying we have to be very sober moving forward, because we know what ails the country. How should we react moving forward with this document? Let's all assume that it's a document that Kenyans will say we pass even without a problem.
Okay.
Then what, Jeff? Then what?
That's a big question.
Will we have a buy-in by all citizens, including Wanjiku? Will she understand? At the end of the day, even that person, when they lose, and they are told now you have a leader of opposition and an office with staff and everything, will they accept? And if they don't accept, then what? So that's why I'm telling you, the issue of the spirit coming in is actually very strong. What must lead this campaign? It has to be a spirit that seeks peace. Failure to which we are still in problems.
Let's interrogate that spirit a bit further. Bring in Dr. Pamela Odhiambo on this. I hope you can hear me, Dr. Pamela. We've had a scenario where from the draft, they are mooting that for governors and deputy governors, they should be of opposite gender. And some people are saying if that works, again, at a county level, why isn't this the same aspect for the presidential candidate as well? That should reduce the political stakes so that we know whoever who's running for president will have a female deputy or vice versa. Why hasn't that also been put on the table at a national level?
Thank you very much, Jeff. Before I talk about the opposite sex thing, allow me to comment a little on the issue of the spirit of the statesmanship that I hear my colleagues are talking about. Mm-hmm. You know, for that spirit to be there and established and everybody can practice it, there is a need to do everything in a manner that is safeguarding that spirit from the very beginning. But beginning with the concept of the electoral commission, IBC, if you look at section 88 and part 4 of the law or the constitution, the mandate of this body is well stipulated, including constant voter registration and voter education and making clear voter registers at the onset. Much of the time, this thing is not done continuously as we are expecting, and this register made available. So in brief, I'm saying most of the time why losers have always disputed these elections, especially at the presidential level, is been because sometimes we are shocked that even on the day of election, we don't have a uniform register, which we are using to elect. And this brings suspicion, questions of dishonesty, and with the declaration of the results is just mad. Now, for us to establish this spirit of statesmanship, we need that transparency from the very day one. We need everybody to be satisfied and happy with every step of the electoral process as we begin it. And having said that, the opposition leadership has always been there, even in parliament. And in the recent past, we have had people cry that there is no strong opposition and blah, blah. And having the leader, the person who actually was the vision carrier, either in parliament or in government as the official opposition leader, this actually will keep the vision of opposition vibrant and ongoing. And as I said earlier, we will have a Kenya where nobody feels like they have lost. Because most of the time what we have seen, the MPs who are aligned to the said presidential candidate get elected. But that presidential candidate is thrown into oblivion. And I think this is what BBI is seeking to solve. Mm-hmm. Having said that, coming to the issue of the opposite gender leadership, like in positions of leadership, like in the case of the county governors. In fact, as women, we made it clear that we want to see this kind of happening right from the top executive, so that if we have a presidential candidate who is a male, let us have a female as his deputy. If we have a presidential candidate who is a female, let's have a male as the deputy, so that there is that gender inclusivity. And even as we talk about the gender, the persons with disability come in. And I want to reiterate again that even as we think about that inclusivity, then persons with disability, before we declare them persons with disability, they are either male or female. So I think as we debate around these concepts, we should be very clear in our minds that before anything else, I am a male, you are a female, or I'm a female like I am, and you are a male. So that is the bottom line. And other factors then can come in. Then, if we have that kind of arrangement, even that proposed Prime Minister's office, let's have the same. In the ministries, the women are saying, and I think all of us should say this, if we have a cabinet minister who is a male, let their deputy be female. If they are female, let their deputy be male. This way, we will have a complete house. Even in homes in our country and in the entire world, you talk of a home where there is a mother and a father, and that combination always brings stability in that environment. So I think we are not only saying that this should end with the county government only, but in all other appointed positions and elective positions.
Gabi, I'll come to you on this one as well, because as we talk about it, there's a school of thought that says when we talk about trying to make sure everyone who gets into the political race gets a position, are we trying to just legalize and justify bad behavior?
No, that won't work. Let's just be honest.
The only reason we're creating a position for second runners-up is so that there's no violence. So are we trying to permit that okay, fine, we have to make sure there's a way to...
And you see, I don't believe that's what BBI is subscribing to. It's not that everybody that loses gets somewhere or gets an office. If that is, the spirit behind it, then it will fail. Because if we are in a democracy and we agree we need to be ruled by the constitution that we have, which is what we all subscribe to, then we have to live up to the true meaning of what a true democracy is. It's one of those where you go out there, you sell what you're selling to the mwananchi. If Wanjiko does not buy it, he buys what Daktari is selling, that is it. You live to fight another day. And that's the spirit about democracy. It cannot be that every time I lose, I create a scenario that will, if we go with that mentality, Daktari, we'll be mutilating our constitution every year or every election. That's not what it is. What we are fighting to get, or what we are fighting to come out of, and I would pay a very high price for it, Daktari, is to ensure that we do not fight after. In fact, that is not contested. That is not contested. If you hear all the leaders of this country talking, that is not contested. In fact, even international communities are supporting it. All right? I would support peace through and through. After every election, we go back to our own business as if nothing has happened. That is the true genius of why we all should sit down and look at why we fight. That I'll support 110%. The issue that every loser, because it will trickle down to the county, to the ward level, nobody will ever accept defeat. And you know what you'll have? You'll have a country that is run on chaos. And that's not what everybody's trying to do. So I can understand when you say we come up with a document that says this is what happens to that echelon. And more than that, we have a system that looks into how we arrive at a winner and a loser. To me, that is very important.
Okay.
That is very important. Anything else, if we are going to do, as you have said, in fact, we will not be having democracy. It will be a 1-2. And so everybody will be like, it does not matter what happens. Even that county administrator, that MCA will be like, there's no way, I won't lose. So you won't, in fact, you won't have, we won't have elections.
Daktari, I'll have you in on this one as well, because even as it stands, you said the two statesmen at Bomas were Musalia Mudavadi and Dr. William Ruto. Dr. Ruto raised a valid question when he posed, okay, fine, if we're dealing with the winner takes all, where we have now the leader of majority becoming PM and his assistants becoming the deputy prime ministers, does that solve the winner takes all? He posed the question, I'll pose it to you as well. How do we fix that?
Allow me, before I comment on that, to quickly say the following. That I want to persuade, Professor, I've heard you, but I want to persuade you on this issue of leader of the opposition. You don't have to change the constitution if you want the head of ODM, which was runner-up, to come and sit in parliament. All you have to do is to amend the electoral laws so that he finds his way on the nomination list of his party. You don't have to change our constitution. Secondly, on the issue of who benefits when there's violence. When there's violence, the people who benefit are the ones who are pushing for this document. Why?
When you say this document, you mean the BBI report?
Yes, the BBI document. What do I mean by this? There appears to be people who thrive on the culture that let there be violence immediately after the election so that I can go and shake hands with the winner so that I can be invited into government. Facts only. After the 1997 election, Raila, upon losing, he went and shook hands with Moi. He found himself being Minister for Energy. Facts only. After the 2000 and after Kibaki's victory, Raila, okay, some people don't think he won in 2007.
It's still disputed today.
It's contestable. After in quotes, Kibaki's victory in 2007, Raila went and shook hands with him. He was part of the Grand Coalition government. And here we are, again, in 2017, he has become part and parcel of government. We should not allow a system that rewards people who incite the public to violence so as to subsequently become beneficiaries through handshakes. Finally, the media. The media is going to be central during this BBI report. Why is the media dying, craving for a contest between those who support and those who oppose? Where I sit, I have access to the deputy president and the people who matter around him. None of them has opposed this process. Nobody has opposed. Yeah. We are saying, yes, let's amend the constitution, but bring all Kenyans on board so that issues that concern all Kenyans, not just the rich, but debated. All Kenyans can be debated and be included. Okay. Now, so that I don't look like I'm fighting the media, this is the People Daily. They are saying, Ruto camp in spirited effort to mount opposition to report. Walisikia wapi?
Pause on that.
Wait. The nation is saying, ship out or ship out. Ruto told by Orengo. Who told Orengo that we are opposing?
Okay. Thirdly, I can see you have a lot of evidence, Daktari. Just 1 second. You have a rejoinder from Dr. Pamela as well. Dr. Pamela, I'll have you in. There's a rejoinder you wanted to bring as far as Dr. Boni is concerned. Please go ahead.
Sorry?
We had a rejoinder that I could see there's something you wanted to say as Dr. Halwale was speaking.
I was crying that I'm not able to hear you. I wanted to hear exactly what Honorable Boni Halwale is saying.
Okay.
And I'm really straining to hear it. So I may not even know how to comment when you call me because I don't know. I'm not hearing what you are saying.
Okay, fine.
I'm just crying about the microphone.
Okay, fine. That is totally understandable. We have 4 minutes to go on this one, even as we wind up this particular conversation. And at this particular point, I want us to move it forward and ask the same question that we are putting to the audience. How we achieve this non-divisive elections, where we stand, because that really is the entire spirit of that. You had put the media at task. I have a breather right there. But let me come to you, fair enough on that, because that really is a question. How do you achieve this non-divisive election so that as we move forward, Kenyans can be confident to invest in a business, even in an election year?
It comes back to what I said at the beginning, and I'm glad both Professor and my brother Gabriel has supported me. It is a question of the spirit of the people in the competition. To go in knowing that it is a game of either win or lose, and when they lose, they accept. Now, let me give you an example. this lie that you can have, you can defeat winner take it all. You are therefore saying, for example, that when President Uhuru and his deputy won the election, then Raila, who was runner-up, should have become the prime minister, and his running mate should have become the deputy prime minister. Now, in those kind of circumstances, how would government be run? You will never, however much you change this constitution, have a situation whereby the person who was lost becomes part of government. It stops being an election. Instead of going to an election in that matter, let them go in a boardroom and agree who amongst them will be the president and who will be deputy.
Okay. Dr. Pamela, I want to have you in very quickly on this one. I'll ask you the same question.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Jeff. I love what my Honorable Aluale there is saying, but I want to just remind him that I have said the spirit he is looking for and all of us are looking for is embedded in transparency of the process. If I may just quote and remember and recall from just the last election, 2017, we went electronic. But at some stage, in some stations, we had to go manual. Then, at the tallying process, we had something called a server. And when there was that dispute, Kenyans demanded that that server be opened. And Aluale, it is on record. Up to date, that server has never been opened for Kenyans to verify that whatever was going on was the right thing. So all we are saying is this thing is not a question of blaming Raila. Even him and even me, if some of the things that we have seen in the past keep happening, then we will never be satisfied with a shoddy declaration of a candidate and the public cannot openly verify it. Having said that, what we are talking about in Kenya, even if we left about an individual who stood, there is this component of the feeling of a section of people from a certain part of the country or where the individual or the candidate comes from, that we must be in government this time. And this is why BBI, as proposed, is also struggling to open doors so that we can have as many of these ethnic groups in positions of top leadership of this country. Why? Because we have seen in the past, much as we are saying that the opposing leader or the losing leader should shake hands and then accept as a statesman that he's been defeated, the person then who sits at the helm of that throne forgets that even the people who appeared to have opposed him and wanted to elect the other person are also still Kenyans, and they deserve to be getting whatever resources that every other person gets. And this has been the perennial problem that we have in our country, so that we are talking of marginalized regions. The question is, why are we talking about marginalized regions of this country when the president who is seated and the government of the day is the government of Kenya, which includes this marginalized region? Why are they ever marginalized? If we could have even that president sitting there also as a statesman, he should also forget, I mean, that some people did not elect them and work the way like I have been working in Migori County, that it doesn't matter who elected me and who did not support me. Now I am the women rep of Migori County, and whatever I have must go to all corners of Migori County.
Okay, Dr.
So the statesmanship can not only be imposed on the person who loses, even the person who wins must remember that he is serving all Kenyans. Okay. And then the terms like marginalization, terms like underdeveloped places in Kenya, we will never have them in our vocabulary. Okay, hey,
Gabi, I'll come to you on this. It's the same question. Is it a position issue?
Very quickly, and let me agree with what Dr. has said. I mean, she has put it quite eloquently. The first one being a system. And that's what I also believe Dr. said. We must, and I repeat this again, and I told you before, Jeff, we must have a system that produces a loser, not a winner. All right? A loser. Somebody who, after the election is done, will say, I have been defeated fair and square. Secondly, we must continue to invest heavily on devolution to actually bring a deficit to what our lovely woman rep has said, because that's the only way. We are going to uproot this marginalization and bring them to a platform where they'll realize, you know what, we are also part of Kenya. Thirdly, I go back to the spirit that Dr. Boni brought in, because that spirit leads you to realize, first and foremost, we have one Kenya. No other country. Okay. This is home. This is where we belong. And we must conserve this great nation. If that actually leads us, when it comes to election, it will not be a matter of life and death. It will be, you know what, I have run, I have put my best foot forward, I live to fight another day. Okay. That should be the guiding spirit. That's why we leave it at this particular point. Daktari.
And very finally,
10 seconds.
I want to appeal to Pamela. Daktari, listen, when you reduce the issue of inclusivity to mean that the top five, the top most popularized communities should sit on the table, you come from Migori. Migori is a county of couriers by right, Luos and Luyas. So when Luyas in Migori and Luos in Migori are celebrating that on the national table, Raila is seated there and maybe Mudavadi or Wetangula, how about the couriers?
Okay.
If the Kambas, the Luyas, the Kikuyus, the Kalenjins, and the Luos are going to be satisfied with an election, that means the majority of Kenyans have been shortchanged because there are a balance of 37 tribes. We should stop rewarding tribal kings who masquerade as presidential candidates.
Let's leave it at that.
Yes.
Okay. Gabriel Muthuma, thank you so much for your time. Dr. Boni Alale, thank you so much for your time as well.
Welcome, sir.
Dr. Pamela Obiambo, Migori County Women's to say, but unfortunately we have to leave it there as far as it's concerned. We draw the curtains on this particular point in time. When we come back after the break, we get interactive. This is K24 This Morning. So much to go on here. I don't know if you have a round two of this, but take a short break. We're back as we get interactive.